Good morning, ladies and gents. White Horse Road, London E1, and nice old pub over there, still trading. And I did this journey the other day and filmed it, but I came across some filming going on in the churchyard. Now I've got quite friendly with the people at the church that we're going to go and see, speaking to and froing, and they asked me if I wouldn't put the video on until January next year when the film is released. So as a respect for their wishes, because they've been very helpful and amenable with letting me film and stuff inside the church, so respecting their wishes, I won't put that on. So we're going to refilm it now today when everything's a bit quieter. But this is White Horse Lane, and we're walking a little bit into a Georgian world again. We did that the other day when we went to the pub, which you may have already seen, you may not have seen, the Queen's Head. This is the Half Moon Theatre. It's a lovely building in its own right. Some nice architectural details. That would have been a pub at some description back in the day. I don't know what the name of it was. If anyone can help with that, that'd be great. These buildings here have had a lot of restoration over the last few years, but they're Georgian, late Georgian, 1810s to 1820s, and they extended the street further along. Some of the buildings Victorian, some of them are early Edwardian, so you've got a real hodgepodge. With where we went the other day, where the Queen's Head was and everything like that, that's pretty much still with the Georgian era. But these, I mean, they're lovely old buildings as well. Look, you've got the old braces on there to keep the walls in. And this is the tower project, this building is called now. Was once a mission to seamen, I was told. Hope I've been told correctly. Yeah, as I say, I did film this one the other day, but I did get a little few snippets, a good few snippets of the filming that was going on in the graveyard. And speaking to the people at the church, particularly Maggie, who basically runs the place, other than the vicar, and she said, yeah, she went, they paid us an awful lot of money to rent the churchyard. She went, I can't tell you not to, she went, but I'm going to ask you if you wouldn't mind. She went, until January, once the film's released, January 15th next year, sorry, so January 15th next year, once they release the film, then I can put the footage on. But she said, I'll ask you, please, like, not to do it now. I went, no, that's fine. I went, I'll backlog it onto my computer and we'll go from there. So yeah, so we're doing this journey again, and where we're heading to is the Church of St Dunstans and All Saints, Stepney. Not only is it a fascinating piece of history, it's got integral links to the East End, because it's known as, I'm going to point you this way a minute, it's known as the Mother Church to the East End. I'm just going to point you down because someone's coming along. It's known as the Mother Church to the East End. Yeah, it's known as the Mother Church to the East End, and also was, kind of still is, known as the Church of the High Seas as well, because of its links to shipping, maritime, the docks, and this area. If you watch the churchyard tour, because I've already filmed the church, but if you watch the churchyard tour, you'll see that borne out in some of the inscriptions on the gravestones. Collet Flats, the name Collet, that features quite big in the location that we're going to. I'll say to you, he's a man from the Reformation, one of the fellows that kind of oversaw it really, and he based himself at St Dunstan, Stepney, when it was happening. So the church we're going to, there's been a church on this site for over 1,000 years. It dates back to Saxon times. That was a wooden chapel. Then when St Dunstan himself, who was Bishop of Stepney, when he came along, he founded the first stone church that was there. It wasn't called St Dunstans then, because he wasn't a saint by that time, and it was called All Saints Church, founded by St Dunstan. And inside the church, at the high altar, is a holy rood, a piece, like a block of stone with a cross of Christ on it. And that dates from the 950s, from when St Dunstan himself founded the first church. Now we're going to skedaddle over the road quickly. Belgrave Street, London E1 we're walking onto. Mercer's Place, we've just come from Troon Street. Mercer's Place. See all these little corner ones, they would have been pubs back in the day. Every street literally had a pub of its own. And a lot of the pubs were colloquial to trades, like you'd have dockers in one pub, warehousemen in another, clerks and things like that. It was like the old coffee shops. When the old coffee shops started up in Georgian times, they were very much trade based, like each trade would stick to their own little bit. So yeah, hope you're enjoying the little walk so far. It's not a big long tour, this one. This just is part one of our St Dunstans and this local area. I got a photo from the Second World War. Maggie from the church let me copy it, and it's of prefabs that were put up after the war, and I'm going to try and match up, standing in the exact location that this photo was taken, stand there now, and it hopefully should be fairly easy to match up, because the church clock tower, you can see it in the photo, and that will appear in one of my little 10-minute tour kind of things, one of the shorter tours, because you'll be walking down a place called Durham Row. I'm going to start off with this 1940s photo, then you'll come back to modern times, then I'll take you from where we start off, which will be the view of the church. Then we'll go down what at first looks like a boring little alleyway called Durham Row, and it leads into another little Georgian world. And if it wasn't for the cars and streetlights, the modern bits and bobs, you could almost believe yourself stepped back in time. Luckily, it doesn't smell as it did back in Georgian times, because most of the streets around here stank to high heaven. It is our location. The Church of St Dunstans and All Saints Stepney. As I say, Mother Church to the East End. And for me, this has got brilliant personal links, and I've got the documents with me today. Quite a few of my ancestors were christened here, quite a few married here, and quite a few are buried in its churchyard. But what I've bought today are two baptism records, one from the 1760s, one from 1815, and a marriage entry from 1851. This is like my own family history, and I will share it because I normally keep my family stuff on. I've got a private page, you see, which is mostly just my family members, and it's all the family history stuff. Here we are. Yes. She was right then. And the tree, this tree in the wartime was much smaller than it is now. But bear this view in mind, because this is when we do our Lost London, and it isn't really that lost. We delve into London. When we do that one, we'll start off there. So yeah. But I can't point round at the moment because there's kids there. But directly behind me is a children's playground, and there were prefabs on it for a good few years after the war. The lady, Maggie in the church, said they took the last one down in, she thinks it was the 70s or 80s. Belgrave Street, London E1, and we are now going to cross over, hopefully without getting killed. There we are, and we are at our location, St Dunstans and All Saints Church, Stepney, Mother Church to the East End, and Church of the High Seas, borne out by the fact that it still flies the red pennant up the top there. So, if you're into your churches like I am, join me inside for this one. Hope you'll all enjoy.